Without a doubt, springtime is a great time to catch a big old bass up in shallow water, but there are a few techniques we need to talk about on this week's episode. Coming up in the next half hour, I'm going to share a few secrets that may help you be much more successful in the bass spawning season this year. We're coming to you from the middle of Oklahoma. Glad you're with us. Fox Sports Outdoors is on the air right now.
You're watching the only program with weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
Hi everybody, welcome into this week's episode. So glad you're with us. You know, spring is one of my favorite times to go bass fishing. All those fish swimming around up in shallow water, you can see them sometimes and they're always feeding, right? Not so right. Sometimes those springtime bass can be very tricky, especially when they get up around their spawning beds. But there are some techniques you can use to catch some bass that have not spawned yet and find the ones that have already spawned, and those can be caught. So to do that today, we're going to take you out bass fishing. We've got the Pro Team 195 from Tracker ready to go here on the trailer. We're going to launch it down the boat ramp. And right out here behind me is a little lake I've only been to once before, but it's got a lot of bass in it, and it's a great place to demonstrate some of these techniques that we're talking about. This is Lake Konawa. It's located just north of Ada, Oklahoma. It's located just outside the town of Konawa, Oklahoma, right in the middle of the state, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's got some weed beds, it's got some grass, it's got some rocks, some reeds, it's got some bottom contour, it's got some deep, some shallow, some ditches, some coves, a little bit of everything, and we're going to use Lake Konawa to demonstrate some of these springtime bass fishing techniques on this week's episode. And while we're doing that, we're taking you around the region for your local fishing reports from our expert team of insider reporters from lakes, rivers, and bays right where you live, both saltwater and freshwater. So right now, we're going to get the Pro Team 195 down the boat ramp, get things started. Next time you see me, I'll be out there. But right now, let's get you started back at the studio with your weekend planner.
Hey everyone, it looks like both days of the weekend will offer good fishing conditions. The Solunar tables are indicating peak activity will take place roughly around dawn and dusk. Those on the water either early or late will see the best action. Look for the sun to rise at 6:32 and set at 8:16. Evenings will feature a moon that is 44% visible. Stay with us for freshwater and coastal fishing information from around the region. I'll return with catfishing expert Chad Ferguson on this week's Ask the Pro feature. We're coming right back.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Mercury, Go Boldly, Lowrance, America's #1 fish finder, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. Request our free 2019 fishing guide at orangebeach.com.
Look at this, folks. Hey, there's a pig. There's one. There's one right there. Got a fish on. You stay down. You stay down. You stay down. Let's just slip him in the net. There we go. That's a big one. Wow, how about this? I mean, that didn't take long. And I caught a great old big one. Look at this, folks. Hey, there's a pig. That's a great big bass first thing here. Well, that is a pre-spawner right there. That one hasn't spawned yet. She's still got a great big old belly. And well, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's get you oriented as to what the bass are doing this time of the year and how you can use that to your advantage to catch some of them. First, let's put this bass back. And away she swims, perfectly healthy. Springtime is the most active time of the year for a bass. Spawning can happen anytime from February through May, and actually even into June, depending on where in the southern part of the United States you live. But the bass are either feeding up, getting ready to spawn, looking for a place to make a nest, actively spawning, guarding the fry that hatch on a bed, or either accessing in or out of those spawning grounds looking for food. So you want to position yourself by taking advantage of that and finding those migration routes where the bass are moving in and out of those spawning grounds. I'm going to talk about two kinds of areas that are perfect access points for pre-spawn or post-spawn bass. That bass hit a Strike King red eye shad, lipless rattling crankbait. I'll show you all the gear at the end of the show. Right now I'm going to get back to fishing, see if I can catch another one. I'm going to move back outside, back out on this access point.
Hi everybody, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you once again by the good folks at Fiberworks Marine Collision. Almost anything you can do to your boat, they can fix. Almost. Now this week we've come down to beautiful Lake Conroe to do some bass fishing, and I'll tell you right now, boat docks, and more boat docks. You're going to start early in the day around these docks in the front, on the sides, and in the back, throwing those topwaters, buzzbaits, and pop-ars. Now over at Lake Belton, smallmouth is the word, and they like the rocks. You're going to look for big chunk rocks and steep bluffs, steep drops. You can start your day with topwaters there as well. Use bigger topwaters and move them faster than you think you should. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you once again by the good folks at Fiberworks Marine Collision. Be sure and look for us on Facebook, Lone Star Lakes.
This one. Got him. Got him, got him, got him. You stay down. You stay down. You stay down. Oh, easy, easy, easy. Feels like a big one. It's not a big one. It's not a big one. It's just a hot one. All right. There we go. There's a nice bass for you right there. Hit my rattle bait again, taking advantage of the fact that that's a male moving in here, probably already spawned this time of the year and just headed back out feeding. These fish, after the rigors of the spawn, a lot of people think that they're not hungry, but they are. They haven't eaten for a while and they're ready to get something to eat. So back that fish goes. Thank you, buddy. All right, let's talk about the first of the two access points I want to highlight today. The first one is going to be coves, spawning pockets, bayous, sloughs, any place off of the main reservoir, the main river, the main lake, that the fish can turn and go back into a shallow spot, make a bed, and actually spawn. You want to position yourself at the access point to that. That's where your feeding fish are. That's where the fish are that aren't on a bed and will more actively strike a bait. Now that's a moving bait I caught that fish on. That's a bait that's moving quickly through the water, and that fish chased it down and ate it. So they can be creeks, coves, or any kind of a little indention off of the main reservoir. Those are the places you want to get on the outside edges of, get on the migration route leading into or out of those, and you're prime to catch a bass. Crankbait in the side of his cheek, springtime largemouth bass. There we go. Another one. There he comes. Oh, he's got that crankbait in the side of his cheek. Well, these are healthy fish right here. Fat ones feeding up. All right, welcome back everybody. We're talking about spawning, actually not spawning, pre and post spawning, springtime largemouth bass. Just a couple of good healthy males right there for you. Back that fish goes. And I want to mention to you the second key spot that's great for a migration route to catch bass. And I'm actually on one of them right now. Now you can't see it with your naked eye. In fact, just with your eye, it looks like I'm literally out in the middle of nowhere, just out in the bay, but I'm not. I'm following an underground creek channel. You need a good chart. You need good maps in order to do this. I'm watching my Lowrance Elite TI2 unit up here. It's got great mapping that comes with this unit. You can also load a card in it for several different kinds of maps if you want. But you need to look at these areas. You need to get offshore. Don't get married to throwing at the bank all the time. Get offshore. Find those little wandering, meandering creek channels, and especially find those spots where the creek channels make a turn, a bend, or bend in close to the shoreline. You find those spots. Those are the access points. Stay out in the creek channel, throw up on the edge of the channel, on the flats that lead to those spawning pockets and coves, and those are the migration routes and the access points that I'm talking about. Find those spots, keep your boat in the channel, throw up on the edges, throw up on the flats. You've got a great chance to catch a bass in the springtime, and it works all spring long until it gets really hot.
Hey, sometimes it's fun to know what's in a body of water before you're actually fishing, and Mike Taylor and I had that experience on Lake Okemah today. Ran into the Department of Wildlife that was doing a shocking expedition here, electroshocking on Okemah.
So what we've seen so far today, keep in mind we've just started our sampling. We've only completed about 4 units of 12 units we'll be doing today. And so far we're getting great numbers. They're extremely healthy. We're getting a good size range of all size classes from young of year all the way up to I think our largest fish so far is about 7 pounds that we've collected.
So now that we know the fish are in the lake, we're going to show you next week what we did to catch some of them. But regardless, you can't catch them if you don't go.
Hey folks, Captain Greg Verm here for this week's Fox Southwest Outdoors Report. Hey, we're going to start this week's report up here in Galveston. We're in the transition period from spring to summer patterns. Hey, the sheepshead have finished up their spawn along both the north and south Galveston jetties. The sheepshead, hey, they've moved back out to the Gulf, and the speckled trout, they're taking their place. Hey, now let's move down to Freeport and talk offshore. Kings and cobia, hey, they're within 20 miles. Target your buoys for the cobia, and we're having some awesome success with the pink K-Wiggler long-tailed Sally. Now we have checked a few of our red snapper spots, and they're loaded up. June 1st is opening for red snapper season, and it's gonna be stellar. Hey, if you wanna get in on some red snapper, kings, ling, or mahi offshore, or target specks and reds inshore, call the number on your screen or check out our websites. Hey, I'm Captain Greg Verm. I'll see you next time.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Lose, Feel the Difference. Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland, the best in bass and crappie lures, heads to tails. Glacier Glove, stay outdoors longer with our gloves, hats, and shades. Balls Out, made in the USA. Heavy duty mounts for your fish finders.
I caught that fish throwing way out offshore. That fish was nowhere near the shore. There he is. There's one. Oh, nice fish. And he's got 2 of those big old hooks in his mouth. Get in my net. There we go. All right, I caught another good one. Look at that. He's got a big old mouthful of red-eye shad. That's a good thing sometimes about throwing that bait, is they'll wrap themselves around and grab that next hook. Let me mention something here that's real critical right now. I caught that fish throwing way out offshore. That fish was nowhere near the shore. Great fish. That looks like a spawned out female. That one's already done her thing and she's on her way back out to the main lake. See ya. Most guys, most anglers can be in the right spot, but they can be throwing the wrong direction. You know, it's kind of like that old Bible story where Jesus tells the guys, throw your nets on the other side. They weren't catching anything on one side. They threw it on the other side and their nets were full. A lot of times I see so many folks in the springtime throwing at the shore, throwing at the bank. They're in the right spot. They're drifting down the right depth of water where lots of these fish are accessing in and out of these little bays and pockets. But they're turning and throwing right at the shore, so they're throwing in a foot or 2 or 3 feet of water. The fish may be in 5, 6, 7. I found today that these fish are in about 5 feet of water, 5, 6. So I'm drifting down the outside edges of these pockets and little creek channels, but I'm actually throwing my bait out where I think that 5-6 foot of water is before it actually drops off out there deep.
Hey friends, Cajun Phil here with your Fox Sports Southwest Louisiana Fishing Report. I tell you what, we're talking about Calcasieu Lake, so let's talk about the Cajun Paradise Charters. Our guys have been doing good this week. Windy, and we got a threat of rain again today. But I tell you what, they're catching lots of redfish. Captain Kesbet out there 3 days in a row, catching his limited redfish. Captain Ben Boudreau's out there. He's got his 30 flounder and a few redfish. Let's talk about freshwater real quick. Sabi and the Calcasieu River still not real clear. They're catching a few bass, but not a whole lot right now. But as far as the brim action goes across the state, it's phenomenal from the Atchafalaya Basin. Hey, fishing here in Louisiana is pretty good. You need to come on down and get you some. Till next time, it's Cajun Phil for Captain Kevin. Then happy fishing, and may God bless it. We'll see you next week.
There's one. All right, there's another one. Come up here, what do you got? Decent fish. Yeah. There's another good one right there. There we go, got him. You know, we're fishing today on Lake Konawa, middle of Oklahoma. There's a small female right there. Still got a belly on her. Let her go back. All right, and some folks may be saying, hey, what are you doing on a power plant lake and it's springtime? Well, it's not a power plant lake anymore. They've shut the power plant down here at Konawa. They did last fall, and they haven't run it since, and so this is basically just a cold water lake. And it does everything that every other lake around here is doing. The water warms at the same level, cools at the same pace. So that's kind of a good thing about why I came here, is I'd heard that they'd shut it down, and I wanted to go to a place where we could demonstrate what these fish are doing in the spring. And I'm really on this pattern of drifting down these edges and throwing out in these coves and trying to hit that 5-6 foot water on the outside edge here, and that's exactly where that fish came from. On the lipless crankbait and on a regular crankbait, the little square bill that I'm throwing, is I'm pointing that rod tip at the bait, and I'm keeping my rod tip down and reeling it at a steady retrieve, and every time it hits something I kind of hop it a little bit. But the key is that big soft rod and monofilament line. You got a lot of stretch going on out there, and if you want to get a hook set on them at all, you need to cast it out there, point the rod at the bait, and that way when one hits it, you can swing it this way, you can swing it this way, but you've got lots of swinging room. If you're reeling it out to the side like this, you got nowhere to set the hook when one hits it. So drive that bait with the rod pointed at the bait. One hits it, you've got lots of place to set the hook. Little tip makes a big difference.
You can always watch our latest episode on the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com. Catch up on past episodes and learn about fishing techniques and new gear at our how-to page. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for new fishing videos every day. Simply search for Fox Sports Outdoors and click the like button on Facebook and the follow button on Twitter, and watch a new episode every week on any device by downloading the free WAYPOINT TV app on your phone, tablet, computer, or smart TV. Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by MotorGuide's wireless and easy-to-use XI3, WAYPOINT Marine, the Gulf Coast's leading saltwater boating specialist, Strike King, Taiwan Han, and Tracker Boats, America's best-selling fishing boats.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for the Ask the Pro segment, where viewers get expert insights from the professionals. Jimmy wants to know where to catch blue catfish in the spring. For the answer, we checked with catfishing expert Chad Ferguson.
With water temperatures rising in the spring, blue catfish will make big moves during this time. You may still find some blue catfish in deeper water and in mid-depths, but you're also going to start to see lots of blue catfish moving into really shallow water, often as shallow as a few feet deep or less. So if you're having a hard time finding fish, it's a good idea to go out and use your sonar to look in the deeper water and mid-depths, Look for good concentrations of bait and fish, and if you don't find them, then start to move more and more shallow until you find those fish.
Thank you, Chad. If you have something to ask one of the pros, simply visit our website and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit your question. Now let's take a look at this week's Big Catch winner.
We're back after a great day's fishing today, and it's time right now for the Big Catch of the Week winner. Someone gets their big fish photo shown on television. He's Ryan Roberthon of Breaux Bridge, Louisiana, showing off a 44-inch redfish he caught at Cypremort Point State Park in Louisiana. If you'd like to be our next winner, just go to our Facebook page. Go to facebook.com and search for Fox Sports Outdoors. On there, you can click comment and post your photo, and you could be our next winner. Next up, here's some of the gear we used today, beginning with the Lew's David Fritz Perfect Crankbait Rod. You need a cranking rod to pull these lipless rattle baits and the square bill crankbaits that we caught our bass on today. The reason? Because you've got lots of give. It's a real slow rod. The bend is throughout the entire rod, and they can't throw those little hooks nearly as well. And this is a great rod, the David Fritz Perfect Crankbait Rod. I had it paired up with the Lew's Team Lew's Pro TI reel. This is the best bait cast reel Lew's has ever made. I used two different baits to catch all of our fish today, beginning on your left with the Strike King Red Eye Shad. This is the 2-tap version that's got one big heavy weight in the middle of it that makes a lot of racket when it comes rattling through the water. Red is always a great springtime color. And on your right is the Strike King KVD 2.5 square bill crankbait, again in a red color. And I want to show you one quick thing. I jumped off a giant bass on that square bill crankbait. This bass would have gone over 9 pounds. I fought it, got it right up almost to the boat. It did almost a backflip. We did get a shot of it on camera, and then the big one got away. One of the side effects of our fast-paced culture is the loss of the ability to dream. In fact, there was a worldwide poll taken of folks to ask them what their biggest dream was, and here are some of their answers. Seeing the Northern Lights, an African safari, a marathon, a hot air balloon ride, skydiving. Do you have a bucket list? Something you've always wanted to do? A big dream? Have you ever crossed anything off your bucket list? Do you have any kind of a game plan to cross anything off your bucket list? We must keep our ability to dream, because you must have a dream before your dreams can come true. I hope you took a few mental notes about some of the techniques we talked about and the principles from Lake Konawa today for springtime bass fishing, because these same principles will apply where you live and could help you put more bass in your boat in the springtime. Glad you joined us today from Lake Konawa, Oklahoma. Until next week, I'm Barry Stokes. Be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.